Hello guys, I'm the maildartfrog. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the mystery of Scrap Mechanic Survival Hidden Story. Also, if you enjoyed this video, which I hope you do, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can unsubscribe at any moment. But let's get on with the video. So, as you probably know, by the time of recording this, Scrap Mechanic Survival isn't really finished yet. We do have a playable version of it, but it's nowhere near finished actually. And there are a lot of missing things from the game right now, but you can take a look at them, for example in the files, as well as different things that are set up for further development. One of those things, for example, is a little icon in the right bottom corner of your screen. It's grayed out and not accessible in the game for now. And if we were to go by common sense, it's probably called logbook. If you go into options and controls, you can see that L is binded to the logbook, similarly to how H is binded to the handbook, which is also an icon in the bottom of your screen. Now this is where things actually get interesting. From a YouTuber called It's Friendly, which by the way you can check out his video on a similar subject in the top right corner of your screen right now. It's great, go subscribe to him if you like my content, because his content is very similar by the way. In the files he found 12 audio files of a mechanic speaking. Yes, another mechanic. From these logs we can actually find out about the short story of that mechanic, the fact that he's actually a mechanic because he mentions that, and about him trying to get off the planet. We also know that the planet in Scrap Mechanic actually has a moon, and that there should be a station there.
Can't even reach the crew on the moon and they're like next door.
So basically what the mechanic is trying to do is go for a warehouse on the top and catch a cargo ship to get off the planet. He also mentions the helipad, which is indeed part of the warehouse in the game. Once you go to the roof, you can see that there is actually a helipad similar thing. So that's most likely what he was talking about. On the last floor of every warehouse you can also find this little thing, which would fit the logbooks perfectly. This could be like a little hideout spot for the mechanic trying to get off the planet. In the last recording, we can hear him getting on the top of the warehouse and finally trying to catch a cargo ship. However, just as he's getting on it, the recording cuts out, so we really have no idea if he managed to do it or not. From what I understand, this whole thing also started with a giant storm, but not like a normal storm. Actually, just listen to the recording.
Got it. Hi. It's been a while since last I got any responses from HR, and I can't seem to reach Wonk HQ ever since that big storm went by. Didn't look like no storm I've ever seen. Not a drop of water flying, just flashing colors all over the place and big rolling clouds coming lower than anything I've ever seen.
In the different recordings, the mechanic also, for example, mentions the mechanic station with the missing battery.
Food update. Ready meals are officially gone. And the master battery is going in the mechanic station, so building a cook pot is out of the question. Looks like it's sunshakes for me. I hate sunshakes. I wish I had a pizza burger.
And when we get to one of the mechanic stations, we know for a fact that the battery is actually still missing. The mechanic also describes weird behavior of different bots, such as for example the tape bot trying to pack everything into boxes, such as for example seawater, which by the way, this also lets us know that the warehouse where the story is taking place is far away from the ocean, because the mechanic says this.
Another cardboard box was just dissolving. They filled it up with seawater. Where the heck did they get seawater all the way out here?
We can also hear him mentioning packing woks into a box, which obviously we have those boxes in the game actually.
The bots are packing woks. Whole woks just stuffed into those crates like wads of toilet paper. I found out when I tore the tape off one of those things and it just burst out like a balloon animal, smacking me across the face. Made so much gosh darn noise I barely had time to scrape away before the tape bots noticed me. I mean, what the heck is going on here?
Now, in the recordings, most of the time, if not all the time, the mechanic is actually referring to each of the enemy bots with their actual names. So instead of calling all of them farm bots, the toilbots are called toilbots, and the haybots are called haybots, and so on.
Couple of toad bots tried to corral me when I crossed the wheat field. On the way to bunk 2. I know they tried to herd me in where there were hay bots, ready to spring an ambush on me.
Now the mechanic mentions the ground shaking, and that it might be related to farm bots. Now, as we will probably know, there is actually an abandoned and destroyed city in the game, which actually every time spawns in the same place on the map, which is somewhere around this area. And those cities are in fact full of farm bots, and I mean the farm bots, the big red boys as we all used to call them. So it's very likely that the mechanic in the recording is actually referring to the farm bots, and that they are so powerful they can in fact shake ground and destroy entire cities.
Relays are still shot and the place is shaking something fierce. The bunk can take it, of course, but it's been going on far too long to be a quake. They told us there weren't any active volcanoes here, but you know, procurement's been known to be wrong on many levels. Could be some farm bots flattening some scrub land. It's been going on far longer than it should, whatever the case.
However, this isn't the only evidence of mechanics other than the players in the world. On every map in one of the corners, on each map I tried was this corner right here, so it's probably the same location every time, just like the city, we can actually find another crashed ship, very similar to the one that we crashed in. However, there are some differences. For example, the ship that we crashed in has number 7 and the other crashed ship has number 3. What could it mean? If the ships are so similar and just have different numbers, maybe it was one fleet? Did both of these ships try to land at once and both failed? Another difference that I could find about these two ships is that our has way better interior. As you can see, the ship that we crashed in still has, for example, the craft pod inside, while the other one has a few things missing, such as, for example, exactly the craft pod, which obviously the craft pod would be very useful to any potential survivors, so maybe they have taken it with them. But what happened to the survivors from that ship? If there were any, that is. Mechanics from the locals appear to have been on the planet already when the whole farmbot catastrophe happened. And you see, on one of the worlds that I generated, the ship was actually facing away from the main land, and there was actually a warehouse really close by and was really high. So at first I thought maybe that's how the story goes. Maybe the mechanic trying to get off the planet got on the ship and they crashed soon after. That's why the recording could have been cut off. But apparently the second crashed ship spawns in a random orientation, and in another world I created, the ship was facing towards the main land, as if it was flying towards the land, which makes the possibility of this being the struggled mechanic's ship very unlikely. There is, however, one more very interesting thing to all of this. There's one more location which spawns apparently in the same part of the map every time, and that is the very big pump station. This place seems to have been pumping chemicals and water in the past, and it's now also guarded by a farm bot. I mean the farm bot. However, the pipes leading out of this place appear to be broken down, cut off, possibly by the farm bots. Same goes for the road bridges going into the place. Another very interesting part about this whole thing is, as far as I know, those places have the only launch pads in the entire map. I have not seen a single launch pad in survival mode outside of this place. The interesting thing about those is that unlike the launch pads in creative mode, those ones actually have some kind of smoke marks on them, suggesting that they have been used in the past. We can also see that the good portion of this pump station is dry. And if we look at the other parts of the world, majority of other pump stations of presumably the chemicals are also dry. Only a few of them are actually still pumping chemicals. Now the chemicals appear to have incredible properties. On one hand, they are very toxic to us and we can't stay them for too long, or else we will die pretty much on the spot. But on the other hand, we can see that they can also grow life, just for example those very exotic flowers. and it really looks like the entire map is running dry of the chemicals. Also keep in mind that the farm bots are also shooting chemicals, but only the farm bots. The hay bots and the toad bots apparently don't have access to any of those. And the storm mentioned earlier, with all the different lights, the chemicals also seem to be lighting up different colors, aren't they? So in conclusion, what happened to the mechanic trying to get off the planet? What exactly was the storm at the beginning? What is going on with the undercrashed ship? What is the story of the abandoned city? And what's going on with the whole elixir situation? For now, we don't know. And that is the mystery of Scrap Mechanic's survival story. I hope you enjoyed. I was the maildartfrog and I hope to see you in another one. Bye!